Sorry, everybody.
Wonderful. Let me try again. So we are going to be talking about practice number 5 tonight, which is act together. And the way that I've set it up is how we've learned works best in this group, which is I laid out 4 questions for you all to kind of think about. So I'm going to read those, and then I'm also going to share an email that I sent out about a half an hour ago, which I know is not ideal for you all with your busy lives, being able to really spend time with. But as I was thinking about ACT together today, I was remembering the training that Matt Gwynn did for us at the Institute about the different cycles of social action, and just wanting to bring those in again as we're contemplating where our particular calls are in showing up for public action. So the original questions that I sent out were, what would public healing look like for the subjects you are engaging in your projects? What would it look like to join or develop organizing efforts around those subjects? And I thought of that question because I know a lot of the projects have elements of acting together with them, but don't necessarily have like public campaign or social change space central to them. So just thinking about like, what does, for example, Liz, like what does holding courageous, vulnerable community conversation space, what would that look like as a public action? So just wanting to think about getting bigger with what we're doing. Have you spent time in your projects discerning your unique call to participate with others in organized actions? What are public issues affecting your communities? And have you practiced relationally identifying mutual interests that could move folks in your community to public change work? I think, Rie, you already talked about that a little bit with your own heart being scared about the marshland and then just sort of stumbling upon a group that was doing work around that. So that was really cool. But I wanted to bring in Matt Gwynn's stuff too. So I sent you all an email if you want to bring it up. Otherwise, I can just read it through. So Matt had a cycle of 6 steps for campaigns of nonviolence for personal and societal healing. And then after he laid them out at the Institute, we kind of talked about where we saw our own strengths, which stage in the process we saw our own strengths applying. So the first one so those were info gathering, education, personal commitment, negotiation, direct action, and reconciliation. And as I was writing those out, I was realizing how easy it is to plug in eco-faith practices with those too. But info gathering was all about questioning assumptions and asking strategic questions. Again, Liz, I really think about what you've been doing, thinking about how we have these conversations with each other. And then relationship building and community. So one-to-ones are a huge example of that. Or Sarah, the way that you're thinking about doing the garden collaboratively would be about info gathering. Education, the next one. So he said that an example of this is protests without demands. So this is both external and internal education. Spreading information, like Robin just said, wanting to tell everyone about what we're learning together. This can be creativity, music, art, theater. I often find myself in wanting to illustrate things so the education piece can be a little bit more exciting and appealing. And then the ultimate goal of education is developing diverse, effective, articulate leaders. And I think that that's what this intern project is for. So I don't know, as I go through this, I'm realizing that I think sometimes act together can feel scary, especially as a group of introverts, but we're already doing so many elements of public action, even if we're not like standing in front of a courthouse with a microphone or something. So just remembering that this is collaborative and diverse and everyone's gifts play into it. So info gathering, education, and then personal commitment. So this is about building morale, lifting each other up, and then asking our own selves, what am I actually willing to put into this? Which I wrote, sounds like discovering our stories. And then negotiation is next. So this is when the conflict is formalized. So when you know and meet with the people who can make the public policy decision. So recently, Surge in Duluth has been organizing around the police wanting to buy riot gear. And that's a part of the next upcoming city budget. And so trying to pinpoint, okay, who are the people? Is it the city councilors that we need to flip? Is it the mayor who ultimately gets to vote on that? But when we actually meet with the decision makers in our place and share who you are and name what your demands are. Then the next step is direct action. So this is protests, rallies, sit-ins with demands, and it creates pressure for the decision maker. So the decision maker sees, okay, it's not just Sarah who cares about this, but it's these 100 other leaders that we've been working with throughout the process who can come and back us up in that. And then the really important last step, which is also our final practices in EcoFaith, is reconciliation. So just taking the time to say what personal and institutional conflicts and disagreements came up throughout this whole process and what is needed for healing. So this is not something that is so hard, I think, is that people don't often know that personal conflicts are going to happen or we're going to have disagreements of how to best do something. And so to just name from the get-go, there will be conflicts, and we have a commitment to relationally stick with each other and figure out what we need to do to be able to keep going forward together, which of course is made easier if you're doing the relationship building and the deeply knowing everyone all the way through. But taking time at the end to really make space to say, what do we need so we can learn from mistakes so that harm that might have happened may never happen again. And then it's a cycle, right? And all of those things are happening at the same time. So info gathering, education, personal commitment, negotiation, direct action, and reconciliation. And then I'll just read our questions one more time. And then we can kind of, as we've done in the past, just talk about what comes up. We're not going to go through question by question, but rather find out what feels really nutritious and salient for us and just dive in from there. And I've put we have 35 minutes to talk about this, but since we're a small group tonight, that can be shorter or longer. So one more time. What would public healing look like for the subjects you are engaging in your projects? What would it look like to join or develop organizing efforts around those subjects? Have you spent time in your projects discerning your unique call to participate with others in organized actions? What public issues are affecting your community? And have you practiced relationally identifying mutual interests that could move folks in your community to public change work?